Yo, yo, welcome to Trippy Commentaries and our Week 11 preview. We have a lot to get to, K-Mac. Last week, the Green Bay Packers looked unstoppable. Aaron Rodgers, 6 touchdown passes.
Crazy.
Everybody was heaping praise on Ben Roethlisberger for throwing 6 touchdown passes in a game. Aaron Rodgers did it in one half. And then you have the Philadelphia Eagles, who looked pretty impressive themselves, saying a lot considering they are led by Mark Sanchez. Now these two teams will face off with one another. Can't wait to talk about that one with you. I'm RJ. K-Mac, Aaron Rodgers, man, he is on his game, and he might be an MVP candidate after all. We were talking about Andrew Luck, of course, DeMarco Murray, Phillip Rivers even. Maybe Aaron Rodgers comes and steals another MVP.
Yeah, I mean, he put on a damn clinic in that first half of that game against the Bears. I mean, I don't even know if the Bears even were even trying to stop any of his passes. He's pretty much had free reign to do whatever he wanted in that first half.
Didn't look
and
like
everything worked for him.
Jordy Nelson was wide open twice.
Yeah, twice. 2 big plays there. I like the Packers right now, and this is an interesting matchup because you have Mark Sanchez, who we didn't know what we were going to see from him last week. I know I was kind of pulling for him, hoping that this guy would actually be able to kind of resurrect his career a little bit here. Thought he did pretty good last week. We got to see more. I want to see him start using a little more of his weapons. Obviously, he used Jordan Matthews really well last week and had some success with that. I'd like to see him start getting Macklin a little more involved here going forward because this is going to be a shootout. I mean, you're going to see both these teams kind of have their will with the defense and both the offenses being able to move the ball. And I have to go with Green Bay to come out on top here over the Eagles just because right now that offense is clicking. It's pretty much unstoppable right now. Bears obviously are bad defense, but I still think they'll be able to have the same success against the Eagles defense.
Yeah, Green Bay's coming in favored by 5.5 points. It's in their home stadium, Lambeau Field, probably starting to get a little bit chilly.
Yep.
And I just think Green Bay's a little bit better on offense, maybe a lot better with Aaron Rodgers, but Philly's offense is still pretty good as well. Chip Kelly certainly has that side of the ball going pretty well.
Right.
And I think Green Bay's defense is a little better as well. Philadelphia has some pretty good things going on defense, but nonetheless, I think Green Bay, even though they've come up short in a couple games this year, last week was that first week where I thought you saw the defense come together, and I think that's the reason why they're going to win this game. They're just a little bit better on both sides of the ball, will lead to a victory for them.
Well, and they made a big move last week and put in Clay Matthews actually at the middle linebacker position, which I think helped out that defense a lot. They were able to stop the run game. I thought he looked great at middle linebacker. Talk about stepping up big for your team because they're kind of lacking that up the middle. He comes in, plays middle linebacker last week, has I think 11 tackles, made a few other plays, and really looked well there. I think that's definitely going to help him this week against the Eagles.
And just to break down our picks, guys, last week I was coming into the week on top with a score of 8. I had 8 games correct. Mike in second place with 7. Justin with 6. Kyle, you had the off week with 5. You had a pretty good bounce back week last week with 9 correct.
Yep.
So that gives you a score of 14. I had 8 correct, so that puts me at 16. Mike had only 6 correct, so he actually will go to 13. And Justin came in with 9 just like yourself, so he's at 15. So nice. Once again, I'm in the lead with 16. Justin's in second place with 15. You have yourself in third, 14. Mike is bringing up the rear total with 13. So we'll give all of our picks. Mike went with Green Bay as well, so it looks like we're all going to go with the Packers. We'll get Justin's picks here and punch those in as well, see if he can keep up, because this is definitely close as far as our little competition here, Trippy Commentaries, which will go all the way through the playoffs. But let's go ahead and commence more picks here, Kyle. Houston traveling to Cleveland. All of a sudden, the Browns look like a playoff contender. Houston, unfortunately, they don't have a lot good going on except for their running back, Arian Foster, who looks like he's going to play.
Yep.
Do you think he can run on the Browns' D?
Well, they're going to need him to. The Browns' defense is definitely struggling this year in stopping the run. They've been a little better in stopping the pass. So Houston's obviously got to go into this game planning on having Foster be able to carry the load and be able to hopefully be able to win a game for him. Unfortunately, I don't see it happening. I'm starting to see kind of the downside in the season for Aaron Foster here. I think this is where you're going to start seeing those little injuries that keep popping up on him. Obviously, he had the groin problem, which kind of never goes away. These injuries are probably going to keep coming up on him. I don't think he's going to be able to get the 25 carries in a game. That's going to be needed for them to win this game. I'm going to Cleveland. Obviously Cleveland took it to Cincinnati last week. I thought Cincinnati looked terrible, so I'm not buying into Cleveland being that great of a team at this point. They're favored by 3. I think they can cover that this week, and I'm putting my money on Cleveland.
This is a good matchup for them, too.
Yeah.
Their defense is just solid enough to be able to hold, I think, the Houston offense in check for the most part. I'm definitely worried about Arian Foster.
Yeah.
He can take over any game provided he's healthy. Looks like he'll be healthy for the most part, but he's coming off an injury, so we'll see. I do like Cleveland like yourself, Kyle. Mike went with Cleveland as well. Brian Hoyer is playing very well. And they have momentum. That's really the main thing that's going to help them win this game. It's just a nice home game against a beatable team. Once they defeat Houston, they're in a real good position for this final run because, as you said, Cincinnati got hammered. Even Pittsburgh lost to the Jets.
And aren't they getting somebody back next week?
Yeah, they're getting Josh Gordon.
Some receiver, some guy.
So perhaps Cleveland is actually the favorite in the division. Also, Baltimore's out there. This is crazy stuff. Baltimore barely beat Tennessee. I like Baltimore to take that division, but right now every single team has a chance in the AFC North. Really exciting heading down towards the home stretch.
Oh, yeah.
Minnesota is traveling to Chicago. This is not a very good game. We won't spend too much time talking about it because, frankly, neither of these teams are going anywhere this season. I know Mike's going with the upset special here. Minnesota on the road. Chicago got embarrassed last week. I do look for them to bounce back in Soldier Field.
Really, I'm agreeing with Mike here. I think Minnesota is going to upset them. Chicago got embarrassed last week. I think Minnesota's pass defense is good enough to be able to keep these two receivers, Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall, in check. I think their defensive line is actually very underrated. I feel they're going to get a lot of pressure. Griffith is a guy that is definitely going to be providing pressure right up the middle there on Cutler, which we've seen before. Cutler can kind of handle some of the pressure from the outside. He can kind of step up in the pocket. But when he's got that pressure right in his face, that's when we see the bad throws from Cutler, a lot of sacks. I continue to see it happening this week, unfortunately, for Jay Cutler and all Bears fans out there. I'm going Minnesota.
Everson Griffin, 10 sacks so far. Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a Matt Forte game. I really like him this week against the Vikings, and that's why I'm going with the Bears. Don't feel great about it, but it will be a nice home crowd. That team needs a win in the worst way. I know Chicago's getting a little bit crazy up there. They're starting to lose confidence in Mark Trestman, which is too bad because not too long ago, Mark Trestman was looking like a Chip Kelly-like offensive mind. Now he's fallen off. The defense is terrible.
That's the thing. And being a head coach is different. I mean, Mark Trestman, great offensive coordinator, will probably end up next year being on another team as an offensive coordinator. Just don't think he can cut it as a head coach at this point in his career.
We're Bucs fans. I would love to see him come to Tampa Bay.
That's
what
I'm hoping for.
Yeah, that'd be a dream right there because I still think he's got it going. We said this at the beginning of the season about the Bears. I don't care if they're the greatest show on turf times 2. They're all about defense. The Chicago Bears have never done anything in their franchise without a solid defense. They've made it to some Super Bowls with great defenses. I mean, their last Super Bowl, they made it to Rex Grossman was their quarterback. So offense is not what I'm worried about. It's their defense.
It's
not going to do anything this year. They need to resurrect that ASAP, and they need so many players there. It's ridiculous. Lance Briggs is probably still the best player. He's getting close to over here. He's been playing for so long.
Yep.
So I am going to go with Chicago despite all of the negativity I just threw out there because
home field advantage.
I think they can just pull out a victory at home, like you said, in windy Chicago. Mike and yourself going with Minnesota. I do like Jerick McKinnon in this game, so we'll see if he can get it going. That'll definitely help out the Vikes.
Yep.
Seattle traveling to Kansas City. Now, this is an interesting line here. Kansas City favored by 1.5, their home stadium, Arrowhead Stadium, against the Super Bowl champs. Kyle, Who are you picking in this one? This is tough.
I'm telling you, there's only one reason I'm picking Seattle to come in and upset them, and that is beast mode Marshawn Lynch. I feel he's going to run all over this Kansas City team. They have kind of struggled against the run this year. They got probably one of the best secondaries right now in the game going. Probably even better than Legion of Boom if you look at the stats, look at the numbers. They are definitely holding it down. Now, I've been talking about Kansas City's defense. They have not let up a rushing touchdown. Unfortunately for Kansas City, I believe this is the week that they do let up a touchdown. Look for Marshawn Lynch to probably have another 3-touchdown, 4-touchdown maybe type game. And I see Seattle kind of bouncing back here. Obviously, they have to depend on their running game now to get it done because their pass game is the worst in the league. But I think their running game, between having Russell Wilson, who can take it on the outsides, and Lynch, who's going to pound it up the middle, it's a good combination, and it's working for him.
I'm actually going to do the flip mode here, because I think it's going to be the same kind of game from the opposite end. I think it's going to be a Jamal Charles game going against Kansas City. And I'm starting to get scared about this Seattle wide receiver core. They really have nothing at this point, and that just lines up perfectly for Kansas City. Like you said, their run defense is pretty good, so if they can somehow contain Marshawn Lynch, they're not going to have too much to worry about as far as the defensive backs.
I mean, these two teams are very identical. If you look at it, other than, I'd say, Russell Wilson, probably a little bit better than Alex Smith, but still kind of comparable. They both are pretty good on their feet. They both, make the right decisions, but they have no wide receiver threat at all. Both teams have great running backs. Both teams have good defenses. This is a really good game. Could kind of go either way. It's really a tough one to call. Once again, Kansas City having another game. They're only favored by this week 1.5 points. Last week it was 2 points. So another very close, real close game for them. But like I said, from what we saw last week from Marshawn Lynch, I continue to see him having that success in Kansas City.
Yeah, talk about good running backs. How about Russell Wilson? That's one of the reasons why Seattle has been able to pull out some victories here despite some lackluster plays, because he's running like a madman.
Yep.
We'll see if he can do it, because he might have to in Arrowhead Stadium to get this victory. Mike and I are picking the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City's been one of those teams that just finds a way to win. They haven't looked impressive at all, but their record is decent, and perhaps they can make it into the playoffs and maybe even surprise some people.
Yep.
We'll see, because I thought their defense was going to fall off like they did last year with some injuries. This year they've galvanized and become pretty good. That's definitely a lot better than last year, where they had that terrible loss to Indy, gave up a ton of points. This year their defense is back on track. We'll see what it means for the Chiefs heading down the home stretch. Atlanta traveling to Carolina, Kyle. Boy, I don't even really want to talk about this one. Neither of these teams deserve a victory, and they play one another. I'm picking Atlanta on the road just because I like Matt Ryan against the soft defense.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree with you. I'm going with Atlanta here. Atlanta's kind of getting, I don't know, a little bit disrespected, I feel, the past 2 weeks. Last week with Tampa, they were only favored by like 3 points. When the week, the game previous to that, they absolutely blew them out. I don't see how they can possibly put Carolina as a favorite. Now, I guess they're giving the home field advantage here. But, I mean, Carolina looked pathetic last week. They have
short week as well.
They're not giving Cam Newton enough time. He's even they're kind of saying he's kind of injured right now, but he's going to keep playing. Atlanta does do one thing pretty good still, and that's get a decent pass rush going. We saw Josh McCown running for his life last week. Cam Newton's probably going to experience the same exact thing this week, and I'm going Atlanta.
I can't think of any of their pass rushers. I don't think they have that great of a pass rush. The Atlanta
They get it
Falcons
done, man. Bierman is actually getting it.
I don't think he has a sack on the year. I know I think he had one against the Bucs, but nonetheless, I agree with you as far as the matchup there, and I do think Atlanta's defense is going to be able to get stuff done against the Carolina offense, which is completely hobbled right now. Other than Kelvin Benjamin, who got two, pretty much afterthought touchdowns, their offense has got nothing going on whatsoever. Cam Newton looks terrible all of a sudden. Oh well.
And no run game at all.
No, they're not even trying. They're splitting it up between their two guys. Jonathan Stewart's clearly the best guy. They give more carries to D'Angelo Williams. Makes no sense there in Carolina. Riverboat Ron has turned into Psychotic Ron. Cincinnati traveling to the Saints, Kyle. This is a crazy game. Saints heartbreaker last week to San Francisco. Should not have lost that game. But at least they didn't get their ass kicked like the Bengals.
The Bengals looked terrible last week. I can't put any money on them this week. I'm going New Orleans at home. I think they will cover this 7-point spread. And I think the Saints, like you said, tough loss last week, but look for them to bounce back. Jimmy Graham going to have a big week. Cincinnati can't stop the run right now. Look for Mark Ingram to have a very solid week as well.
I can't find any reason to pick Cincinnati in this game. I do think it'll be a bit of a shootout, but New Orleans is going to play pissed off. They don't lose at home, and they lost at home last week, and it was a painful loss because they shouldn't have lost, like I said.
Yep.
I think they're going to come out with a vengeance. I'm going New Orleans all the way. Mike picked Atlanta with us with the last game there, so we all picked Atlanta on the road. That's pretty interesting. He's also going to go with the Saints, so we're all in agreement with that one as well. Tampa Bay at Washington. I picked the Bucs last week, and they looked decent at times and completely faded at the end. I'm wondering if this team knows how to finish. I don't think they do.
No.
I think Washington gets an easy victory.
Yeah, I'm going Washington. In Washington, I don't think Tampa Bay has a chance right now. 7-point favorites, I think they will cover.
Yeah. I do like young Mike Evans, so we'll see if he can continue his role.
Mike Evans is great for fantasy, but other than that, I mean, he's not he can't win the game on his own. And if they don't ever give Josh McCown or Mike Glenn, whoever's starting, enough time to throw the ball, or at least have plays that are designed to get rid of the ball quickly, they're going to struggle, man. That team really needs an offensive coordinator bad.
Offensive coordinator, a better offensive line. We'll see what they do in the offseason. Might be the number 1 overall pick. We'll see if Oakland can get a victory themselves because they might have it locked up. The good thing for the Bucs is the other teams that are terrible this year, Jacksonville, Oakland, they just drafted a quarterback. So if the Bucs do want to get a Jameis Winston or a Mariota, he's probably going to be there for the taking.
Yep.
Denver traveling to St. Louis. There's no way in hell you could pick the St. Louis Rams in this game. They are a terrible matchup for the Broncos.
Yeah.
In a bad way for them, of course.
I agree. And, St. Louis, they've been playing really tough, really hard, but, it's another team I feel is having a hard time ending games, finishing games as strong as they start them. Look for Denver to win this. They're 9.5-point favorites. I'm putting my money on Denver to cover.
In a big way. I mean, geez, they're going to destroy. St. Louis is not equipped to stop the Broncos, and I think Denver's going to kind of use this as a practice game just to make sure they're nice and warm, they're hot, heading into some tougher games here coming down to the end of the season.
They'll need to be. It's going to be getting cold in Denver soon.
Yeah, better warm up now against the crappy the Rams.
Yep.
And by the way, the Rams are going back to Sean Hill, so it was good while it lasted with Davis. He had a couple games where people were comparing him to Drew Brees. Perhaps they need to compare him to...
he's got no help either.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a terrible backup. Greg McElroy, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. He sucks. All right, let's move on to the San Francisco 49ers traveling to the New York Giants. I know Mike is going with the 49ers. I'm actually picking the Giants in this one, mainly because I like their receiving threats. Patrick Willis looks like he's out for the season. His replacement, Borland there, very interesting player because he's a tackle machine, but he struggled a little bit in pass coverage.
Yeah.
That on top of Odell Beckham looking like a up-and-coming star. I think the Giants are going to get it going. Even Rashad Jennings, who's now back, I think is going to get some things going in the passing game, leading the Giants to a victory. The 49ers got this crazy win last week in New Orleans, probably one they didn't deserve. I know we already mentioned that. This would be another tough road win if they could pull it off.
Yeah, this is a really tough matchup, and this is a game that I would probably steer away from if I'm betting this week, just because both these teams are very inconsistent. You really don't know what you're going to get out of them from week to week. So obviously the addition of having Jennings back is going to help this Giants team out a lot. We saw in the beginning of the year they had some success with him in the game. As soon as he went out, Andre Williams comes in, is not getting it done. He's not helping this offense out at all right now. You already mentioned Beckham and Donnell. Obviously, Donnell is somebody you might want to start this week if you do have him and you're looking for a tight end because of the fact that Patrick Willis is not going to be there to stop him. Given all that, it's in New York. I'm still going to go with San Francisco to win this game. I think Frank Gore is going to be able to run on this Giants team, and I think Kaepernick actually is going to be able to pass the ball pretty well against this Giants defense. Going with San Francisco, and I would say that San Francisco would probably win it by more than 4, probably a touchdown, 10 points, something like that. I always notice when teams come off a big win like they did last week against the Saints, kind of gets them, kind of gets them going. I mean, this team has kind of needed a win like that to kind of get things going in the right direction. Maybe this is the week that they do it, and that's primarily why I'm picking San Francisco.
I really do think it's going to be close. I'm actually calling a Giants victory in overtime. I think this one will definitely come down to the end, and in that case, actually going into extra time, where the Giants will pull it off at home, and that would be more important for San Francisco, losing in a tough division, perhaps putting them a little bit too far out of the playoff race. Oakland traveling to San Diego. This is one of those games put on a tee for the Chargers, and they need it. I think they're going to win. They do get Ryan Matthews back. Great game for Matthews to come back because he's got a soft defense on the other side. I look for him to have a big game. San Diego, I haven't been impressed with too much lately. In this game, I think they'll do just enough to win and win handily.
Well, I think they had their bye week at a very important time because the week before they looked terrible. They got blown out by Miami. That team didn't even look like the right Chargers. Maybe they were all kind of beat down. They needed a week here to rest, get completely healthy, get their minds right, and they can't ask for a better team to face coming out of the bye week to kind of propel this last stretch of the season.
The winless team.
Yes, and obviously Matthews coming back is huge for him. He's the reason why I think that San Diego will cover the 10-point favorite that they are. Having Matthews and Oliver, they kind of have that 1-2 punch now. It's going to get very dangerous. It's going to help that offense out a lot. Hopefully Matthews can stay healthy, and this is going to open things up for Phillip Rivers. I see Keenan Allen finally kind of maybe getting in that mold of the receiver we saw him last year. He's kind of getting back into that. As long as that offense can give Phillip Rivers time to throw the ball, I think those two will make enough of a connection in this game.
I like Antonio Gates in this one myself.
Yeah, and that's another one there. So Oakland, sorry, this is probably not the week that
Do you think Oakland's going to get a win this season?
I mean, it's possible. You hope to see it. I mean, but
they have a couple easier games coming up.
Yeah, it happens. I see them winning at least one game. At least I hope.
Yeah, I think they're going to win one, and that's it. San Diego, of course, we're all picking them. Chargers better not lose this one at home to the Raiders, or they might need to start panicking.
Yeah.
Detroit traveling to Arizona, probably the best game of the weekend from a matchup perspective. I feel like this is a real good matchup. Yeah. Both teams, great defenses. Unfortunately, no more Carson Palmer for the Arizona Cardinals, which puts them in a tough spot because Detroit's one of the better defenses. Not a good place for Stanton to come back.
Yeah.
What are you looking at here? Arizona's at home, and they're favored by 2 points.
They are. I'm going with Detroit coming in on the upset. As you mentioned, Carson Palmer being out, Drew Stanton's got to come in against a really good defense, a really good defensive line. These guys are going to be in his face. It's not going to make it easy for him. Larry Fitzgerald's been playing great, so as long as Stanton and Fitzgerald can get an early connection, they got to get Ellington involved in the passing game because I think he is going to have a hard time running against this Detroit defense. They can find ways to get him out in space, get creative. Maybe they have a chance here, but going Detroit because I think Detroit is going to be actually able to move the ball. You got a great matchup there with Calvin Johnson and Peterson. I love seeing these guys go at it. Obviously, Peterson says Calvin Johnson is the hardest guy to cover in the game. We saw Peterson with a great game last week, made a ridiculous interception. Don't see it happening this week, unfortunately. Calvin Johnson got that first game, underneath him. Now he's moving on to his second game, which we know he tends to blow up.
Yeah, I have not been impressed with Patrick Peterson at all this year, except for, of course, the pick six last week and the other interception there. I do like him as a player, and I feel like it's a little bit fluky that he's having an off year. There's been players in the past, for example, Brandon Flowers last year was pretty bad.
Yeah.
This year he's grading out as one of the best cornerbacks in the league. So it happens with these cornerbacks. They have off years. Something about that position. It's like these guys can just have off years and then come back and bounce back altogether. What's his name for the Miami Dolphins? Grimes. Brent Grimes. He's another player who had a terrible year, and then this year's bounced back to be pretty legit.
Yep.
So I think you'll see Patrick Peterson play good sometime in the future, but not this Sunday. Calvin Johnson, I'm calling a 2-touchdown game. Detroit winning on the road. It's going to be a heartbreaker for Arizona because they're going to have to really regain their composure. They're coming in as a one-loss team, and then if you lose without Carson Palmer in your first game, I think a lot of that fan base is going to be wondering what the hell's going on if they are truly a Super Bowl contender because they have a great head coach. And Arians says he believes 100% they can go on a Super Bowl run with Drew Stanton. They're going to have to prove it on the field first.
It's not easy.
And this is going to be a tough one to do it. All three of us are picking Detroit.
If you look at any of these other teams, look at Indianapolis, look at New England, look at Denver, look at San Diego. Their starting quarterback goes down. These teams are gonna struggle. It's gonna be hard. It's very hard when your starting quarterback, especially when they've been successful, goes down. Especially when your team has had so much success so far. They've looked great. This is really bad. I feel really bad for Arizona right now. I feel horrible for Carson Palmer. This guy has worked his ass off to get healthy enough. Starts looking good again this year, and now he gets another knee injury. Might end his career. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully we see Carson Palmer come back out again and make another go at it. But just bad timing for Arizona, and this is going to be a true test for Stan. I mean, if they're as confident as they feel, this is the week to show it because it's not going to be an easy one.
From a backup quarterback perspective, too, I wish he had an easier matchup because this is his big shot, and it'd be nice if he was playing Oakland or something because you could be like, man, this guy's it's perfect. It's setting up nicely for him. In this case, he's playing a tough defense. We'll see if he can hold it together and pull out a win at home. None of us seem to think so. I'm sure it will be a close game. New England traveling to Indianapolis, the Sunday night football game. This is a ridiculous game, to say the least.
Awesome game.
Andrew Luck versus Tom Brady. This is a good one because I feel like if it was in New England, everybody would go with the Patriots. But it's in Indianapolis. It's in Andrew Luck's home field. And as much as I want to pick New England, I am only picking the Colts because of that home field advantage. I think T.Y. Hilton, Dwayne Allen, the receivers are going to do enough to score enough points to get Indy through this game. I do like Indy's defense. I feel like they're so underrated now that Vontae Davis is back. Mm-hmm. Put Vontae Davis on, I guess it's going to have to be Brandon LaFell. One guy that I think Vontae Davis might even have a shot against is Gronkowski. We'll see if they give them that shot on primetime. Phenomenal game. I'm going Indy. Hard to even give a reason in this other than Andrew Luck has the will of an MVP.
Yeah, I mean this is a huge game. Obviously, two elite quarterbacks in the league going at it. You love to see these matchups. Obviously, Indy's got the comeback kid, but I've been burned already this year twice for going against New England. I feel New England matches up actually really well with Indy. I think New England's defense has been playing really well lately, and their offense is running full cylinders right now. Coming off the bye week, I definitely see them being able to prepare for Indy enough to be, you know how Belichick is. He's very good at finding ways to shut down teams. I'm going with New England to go in and upset Indy.
Guys, I've been paying attention to these primetime games, and it seems like the home team is having a huge advantage. That's really the main reason why I'm going with the Colts here. You and Mike are going with the New England Patriots, and I definitely feel you guys on that pick. But after seeing Green Bay just light it up at home, of course Philadelphia light it up at home, I'm starting to really feel bad going against the home teams, and I can't do it in this case. We'll see what happens. This is a potential AFC Championship preview.
Yep. Now, sticking with that, you got Monday Night Football. Prime time as it gets.
Not an AFC Championship preview.
Playing in Tennessee. Are you going to
No, it's in Pittsburgh.
Oh, is it at Pittsburgh?
It's in Pittsburgh.
Okay. All right, so definitely Pittsburgh.
Yes.
You think they're going to bounce back this week?
Absolutely. Tennessee. Oh, wait, well, here's the thing, though. Mikey's going with Zach Mettenberger. He's picking Tennessee. He's going with the upset spectacular. What about you?
Bishop Sankey, maybe being able to have some success this week.
Sankey leg. It'll be the first time all year.
I'm expecting Pittsburgh to bounce back this week. I think last week against the Jets was a fluke. It's kind of what I consider a trap game. You have such everyone thought Pittsburgh was going to destroy the Jets. And I believe probably a lot of Pittsburgh players probably felt the same way. Like, oh, this is probably an easy week for us. They did not look like the Pittsburgh Steelers we'd seen the past 2 weeks at all.
Not even close.
I see this as being a very opportunistic time for Pittsburgh to be able to bounce back because they are playing a really bad Tennessee team. And I don't think Tennessee's offense is going to be able to keep up with Pittsburgh's.
Now, that game is in Tennessee, so I got that
Okay,
wrong,
yes.
Kyle.
Yeah, that's
so
what I
let's
thought.
go back to that. And no, I still don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the fan base is not even going to be pumped up at all. I mean, they know what's up. They know that they don't have pretty much anybody that you can relate to. Who, I mean, let's try to name a player on the Tennessee Titans. Not that me and you would know, because we can name their whole lineup.
Right.
But that the normal, everyday Joe Schmo fan would know. There is nobody.
There's nobody.
There's not a single guy. Delaney Walker, nobody knows him. Their defense, Jarrell Casey's fine, but defensive tackles aren't really that popular.
No, they have no household names on that team at all,
Jeez.
which isn't always a bad
That's
thing.
rough.
But they don't match up well to me against Pittsburgh, and I think Pittsburgh is going to go into Tennessee and beat them pretty easily.
I agree with you. Pittsburgh all the way. Okay, so maybe that's why Mike went with Tennessee, because they're at home.
Field.
Are they going to galvanize there?
Hey, the Jets
In
did
Nashville?
it. Jets did it. Pittsburgh could not win on the road. Last week in New York. So, hey, if he's looking at that, if he's going with that angle, it's definitely a valid angle, because I can't really say that Tennessee's any worse than I thought the Jets were. So, who knows? I mean, we'll see what happens. But I gotta say that Pittsburgh's going to bounce back this week.
Yeah, I'm looking for a big game out of Antonio Brown. I was looking at his.
He had a bad
up
game
to,
last week.
I know, but I was looking at his stats up to date, and he's a bad man.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. He had such a bad week last week that this week he ain't. It ain't happening again.
Yeah, he doesn't take anything, dude. He's
ruthless.
He's
man.
a badass mofo.
Kicks people in the face.
He's about to blow up on Monday Night Football, so get your popcorn ready, because that's pretty much all you got to look forward to with that game, unless Pittsburgh falls off again like they did against the Jets. The thing is, the Jets had a sneaky defense, have been underperforming. Tennessee, that was a defense we thought was going to be okay heading into the season. Not the case.
No.
Pittsburgh should bounce back. Guys, enjoy the weekend. Have a great time watching some football. We're now double digits, week 11. So we're getting closer and closer to the playoffs. These teams start to get more and more desperate for that win. At the beginning of the year, they all know that, hey, even if we lose, even if we mess up, we always can bounce back. Can't bounce back now. Now it's must win for a lot of these teams.
Yep.
It's a little bit of a clusterfuck, which makes it so you have to win even more. Enjoy the weekend, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We will cover every week of football for you guys. Drop in the comments what's on your minds. This is going to be an unbelievable season. The best is yet to come. Stay trippy this weekend, guys, and we'll see you next week.